Africa imports more than 40 million tons of steel every single year. That steel builds its cities, its bridges, its railways, and its ports. But here is the part that does not add up. Much of the raw material needed to produce that steel already exists on the continent. Iron ore deposits stretch across countries like Zimbabwe, Nigeria, and South Africa. The demand is there. The resources are there. Yet the production happens somewhere else. For decades, this created a cycle that is hard to break. Countries export raw materials at relatively low value and then import finished steel at a much higher cost. Now that pattern is starting to change. In central Zimbabwe, near Manhise, a massive industrial complex is taking shape. Known as the Dinsen Iron and Steel Project, this facility is backed by China's Tsingshan Holding Group, one of the largest steel producers in the world. What is being built here is not just another factory. It is a fully integrated steel production system designed to take iron ore from the ground and turn it into finished steel ready for construction. The scale is difficult to ignore. The project is expected to produce up to 5 million tons of steel per year once fully completed. To put that into context, that level of output is higher than the total annual production of several African countries combined. The investment for the initial phases alone is estimated between $1.5 and $2 billion, with further expansion planned in later stages. But this project is not just about size, it is about structure. Steel sits at the center of modern construction. Every major project depends on it. High-rise buildings need reinforced steel frames. Railways rely on steel tracks that can handle constant stress. Bridges use steel cables and beams to span long distances. Even energy infrastructure, from power plants to transmission towers, depends heavily on steel. When you look at global production, one country dominates this industry. China produces more than half of the world's steel. In recent years, its annual output has often exceeded 1 billion tons. That is more than the next several countries combined. This scale allows China to supply not only its own construction boom, but also large parts of the global market. Africa, on the other hand, produces only a small fraction of global steel despite having significant iron ore reserves. Instead of processing these resources locally, many countries export raw ore and import finished steel from abroad. The continent's steel demand continues to grow as populations rise and infrastructure expands. By some estimates, Africa's steel consumption could exceed 70 million tons annually by the early 2030s. This imbalance has real consequences. Imported steel is more expensive due to shipping costs, currency fluctuations, and global price volatility. When prices rise internationally, construction costs increase across the continent. Governments planning large infrastructure projects often face delays or budget overruns because material costs change faster than expected. The root of the problem is not just production capacity, it is the entire system around it. In many African countries, these systems developed slowly or unevenly. Energy is one of the biggest constraints. A single integrated steel plant can consume as much electricity as a small city. Blast furnaces operate continuously, often 24 hours a day, and any interruption can halt production. Across parts of Africa, power supply has historically been inconsistent due to limited generation capacity and aging infrastructure. Transport creates another challenge. Iron ore must move from mines to processing plants, and finished steel must reach construction sites. Without efficient railways, highways, and ports, moving these materials becomes expensive. In some cases, it has been cheaper to export raw materials and import finished steel than to process them locally. Then there is the cost of building industrial facilities. An integrated steel plant requires blast furnaces, coke ovens, sintering plants, and rolling mills. These systems cost billions of dollars and take years to construct. Securing that level of investment, along with the technical expertise to operate the plant, has been a major barrier. As a result, a pattern emerged. Raw materials leave the continent at low value, and finished products return at higher cost. That difference affects everything from housing to large infrastructure projects. This is exactly the gap the project in Zimbabwe is trying to address. At Manhise, the Dinsen Iron and Steel Project is being built as a fully integrated operation. The process begins with iron ore mining, which feeds directly into processing facilities on site. The material moves through blast furnaces, where it is converted into molten iron at extremely high temperatures. From there, it passes through steel-making units and continuous casting machines before being shaped into finished products like steel bars, sheets, and structural beams. All of this happens within a single industrial zone. This integrated design reduces transport costs, shortens production time, and improves efficiency. Instead of relying on multiple disconnected facilities, the entire process remains within one system. The physical scale of the site reflects this approach. The industrial complex covers thousands of hectares and includes not just production units, but also storage facilities, worker housing, and support infrastructure. Thousands of workers have been involved during construction, and once fully operational, the plant is expected to create thousands of direct jobs, along with many more indirect opportunities in logistics and services. Construction has moved in phases. Initial work focused on land preparation and basic infrastructure. Heavy industrial equipment, including furnaces and processing units, followed. By 2024 and into 2025, early production stages began, with output expected to increase as additional phases come online through 2026 and beyond. But building a plant like this raises an obvious question. Why is a Chinese company leading the development? China already produces more steel than any other country in the world. In fact, its domestic capacity has grown so large that companies have started looking outward. Building plants overseas allows them to expand into new markets while reducing pressure on production at home. It also places them closer to regions where demand is growing quickly. And Africa is one of those regions. Construction demand across the continent continues to rise as cities expand and governments invest in infrastructure. That creates a long-term market for steel. By establishing production locally, Chinese companies position themselves at the center of that demand instead of supplying it from thousands of kilometers away. There is also a cost advantage. Labor and land costs in parts of Africa are lower compared to many industrial regions. That makes large-scale manufacturing more economically viable, especially when combined with access to raw materials. Over time, this can make locally produced steel competitive with imports. But this project is not only about economics, it also fits into a broader pattern of overseas investment. China has spent years financing and building infrastructure across Africa, from railways and highways to ports and power plants. Projects like this extend that involvement into heavy industry. Instead of just building infrastructure, the focus shifts toward building the materials that infrastructure depends on. That creates a deeper level of economic connection. If all of these systems come together, the impact could extend far beyond the plant itself. Right now, many countries across Africa rely heavily on imported steel. That means construction costs are tied to global prices, shipping delays, and currency fluctuations. Local production changes that equation. If a facility like the Dinsen Iron and Steel Project can supply millions of tons of steel each year, it creates a more stable and predictable source of material within the region. That can reduce dependence on imports and help smooth out price fluctuations over time. You can think of it in simple terms. If steel becomes easier to access and cheaper to source locally, more roads get built, more housing projects move ahead, and more industrial facilities become financially viable. Over time, that starts to accelerate development across multiple sectors at once. There is also a direct economic effect. Large-scale industrial projects create jobs, both during construction and after operations begin. At full capacity, a plant of this size employs thousands of workers directly, from engineers and technicians to maintenance staff and logistics teams. Around it, additional jobs appear in transport, services, and supply chains. Then comes the industrial ripple effect. When steel becomes available locally, other industries start to grow around it. Manufacturing sectors that depend on steel, such as automotive assembly, construction materials, and machinery production, gain easier access to inputs. That can encourage new investment and help diversify the economy. But this shift is not automatic. It depends on whether production reaches full capacity, whether logistics systems keep up with output, and whether the pricing remains competitive with imports. And while the benefits are clear on paper, large projects like this always come with trade-offs that need to be considered. Those trade-offs become clearer when you look at the concerns around projects like this. One of the main questions is dependency. When a project of this scale is financed, built, and operated with strong backing from China, it creates a long-term economic link between the investor and the host country. That can bring investment, technology, and industrial capacity. But it also raises concerns about how much control remains local over time. For example, decisions about pricing, production levels, and future expansion may not be entirely in the hands of the host country. If most of the expertise, funding, and operational control comes from outside, then the local economy may depend on those external partners for key industrial activities. Environmental impact is another major concern. Steel production is one of the most polluting industrial processes. It produces large amounts of carbon emissions, along with waste materials and water pollution if not managed properly. So, the discussion is not one-sided. On one hand, the project brings industrial capacity, jobs, and infrastructure. On the other, it raises questions about control, environmental impact, and long-term economic balance. And these are not new questions. They have appeared in many countries during earlier stages of industrial development, which leads to a bigger point. This project is not just about one steel plant. It is part of a much larger shift that could reshape how industrial growth happens across the continent. When viewed in a broader context, this project represents a potential shift. For decades, Africa has operated primarily as a supplier of raw materials. Projects like this aim to move production closer to the source and capture more value within the region. This is a path that other countries have followed before. China itself went through a similar phase, building industrial capacity alongside infrastructure development. Steel played a central role in that process, supporting rapid urban growth and large-scale construction. The situation in Africa is different, but the underlying idea is similar. Industrial capacity supports infrastructure, and infrastructure supports economic growth. If projects like this expand across multiple countries, they could form part of a larger industrial network. Steel plants, power systems, and transport corridors could connect into a system that supports regional development. But that outcome depends on execution. It depends on whether production reaches planned levels, whether infrastructure keeps pace, and whether local industries grow alongside these projects. Because this is not just about one country or one factory. So the real question is this: could projects like this finally help Africa build its own industrial base at scale? Is China's role accelerating development that might have taken decades otherwise? And if more projects like this follow, could this reshape the future of infrastructure across the continent? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.